Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Tuesday. At least we made it through Monday, even though we got a lot more week to go. Well, thankfully, the Wake Up America Show is here to bring you the absolute best in Liberty highlights for the week. We've got an awesome lineup of guests and topics for you today. In about 1 minute, we're going to speak to Larry Sharp from New York about the mystic leftist pizza hate. Another one bites the crust. We'll talk about the new regulations being pushed by bureaucrats to crack down. I'm sorry, Larry, but one of the only reasons to live in that hellhole of a state. We'll get to him in just a moment. We'll speak to Tony Lavasco, Missouri State Representative, about the new plan to, well, this is bad for all of us, to tax us by the mile. Yeah, well, they don't like the idea of a gas tax anymore. I'm sure they'll get rid of the gas tax when they implement the new plan to charge us based on how much we drive, which of course means they're going to have to put tracking devices in all of our cars. Not that they don't already have them if you drive one of those newfangled vehicles anyway. I know, it's George Orwell's 1984 all over again. We'll talk to Tony Lavasco about that at 7:30. At 8 a.m. this morning, Camelia Peterson's going to catch us up on the juicy, gossipy details of Steven Crowder's divorce. And yes, it is one of those stories that you say to yourself, why do I have to hear about Steven Crowder? Well, it has to do with divorce. He wants 100% custody of his kids. His wife's going for 50-50. He's going for 100%. That's the story. We'll talk to her at 8 o'clock. At 8:30 a.m., I've got a young man who's going to grace us with his presence today. He's actually kind of a young liberal Democrat. His name's Matthew Adelstein, and he lost a high school debate after he was attacked over woke politics, after a tweet that he made that had nothing to do with the debate, and the judges decided to rule against him because they didn't like his mean tweet. And what tweet wasn't even really that mean. He was just actually saying something fairly libertarian. We'll speak to that young man today at 8:30 a.m. Probably one of the best shows and the best lineups, starting it out with the absolute best guest at the top of the hour. How are we doing, Larry Sharp? Nice to see you today.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, brother. It seems like I'm here every other week telling you about something terrible my state does. Yeah.
Environmental bureaucrats are out to save you all from New York pizza, from delicious, thin crust, fold in half, greasy, just beautiful New York pizza. What in the hell is wrong with them, Larry?
I don't know. This is the worst part, right? New York City has obviously a lot of problems, but it has some good to it. And some of the best stuff about New York is its culture to include food, right? If you want to go eat good food, New York City is going to be your spot to be. I mean, you can get the best food in the world, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, all these places. And very often it's one of two things. stuff that's been there for literally 200 years. And then the person who just came off the boat from the country that you like, and that person was cooking for their grandpa yesterday and now is cooking for you today. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you just can't get anyplace else. And they are destroying it under the guise of New Yorkers, need fresh air. And that's the issue. And if we just if we just destroy these 100 stores, then everything will be awesome. See, Austin, if we just punish just these next four guys, then we'll have that socialist utopia that I've been telling you about for decades. That's what it is. A little bit more punishment.
So let me just set it up for our listeners because they're probably wondering, why are we talking about this? But the
Yes.
idea is that New York regulators want to crack down on pizza ovens that have wood burning stoves or anything that has an emission. So the
Well, let
idea
me let
is,
me.
go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
actually coal or wood-fired stoves in general. It's about 100 stores across New York City, give or take.
Which makes the most
A couple
delicious
dozen.
pizza
Yes, and a
in
couple
my.
dozen are actually pizzas. Not all the pizza shops, but a big chunk are pizza shops. And the idea is the new regulations are you have to, if I remember right, you have to hire an engineer, and then you have to find a way to cut your emissions by 75%. Now, what that means is you're going to have to install some type of scrubber. That scrubber is going to cost anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 per store, not including the engineer. So the engineer plus that, and here's the best part: most people don't know this. New York is already fanatical. When it comes to America, we are already per state, per capita, we have the lowest emissions already. Like, we're already there. So even if you care about this tremendously and you really care about emissions and it matters tremendously, okay, great. We're already at that level already. And literally just a couple of years back, we shut down a nuclear power plant, which was helping tremendously. So how do we get past emissions? Now we just buy the oil from someplace else and say it's not our emissions. So we decided to buy the oil from someplace else, not our emissions, and now crack down on these 100 stores. As if these 100 stores, once that happens, now everything's good. It is embarrassingly bad how we punish these small business owners, yet we don't help out any of the big business owners. I mean, we don't punish any of the big business owners or the military industrial complex or anything that's massively destroying the world anyway. We decide these guys are, and here's the reason why: they can't fight back. The reason why New York State does it is they can't fight back. And on top of that, they can make sure that these engineers, which are often licensed, always licensed by the state, the engineers make money, the cronies make money, the people who make the scrubbers, they're the ones who are donating to the local city council people. So these people are all making tons of money because once you get these guys, everyone's going to have to get a scrubber. And eventually, a lot of money is going to be made. And it's the worst part: it's an unfunded mandate. They punish you and then don't even give you a tax break, don't give you a benefit, don't give you anything. They just go, hey, you, yeah, that business that's been struggling since the lockdowns. Remember that business you just got back into a place where you could hire that guy back? Yeah, I'm sorry, my friend. You're going to have to drop another 40 grand. And if that puts you under, what are you going to do? I'm sure there's a franchise owner who's already given money to my campaign who will take your spot. And where I grew up in the South Bronx as a kid, it's a personal thing for me because I go back to my old neighborhood, and the local pizzeria owned by a family from Italy is now a Subway. So yeah, that kind of bothers me.
Larry, if you decide to run for anything in New York, I know exactly who your next constituency of donors should be. Good morning to everybody.
Yes.
Good morning to everyone who's tuning into the show this morning. I'm Austin Peterson. Thanks for watching the Wake Up America show. You can click like down there to help us to spread the message, get more people to watch the show this morning. And if you're enjoying the content and it's your first time here, you can also subscribe to whichever channel you're watching us on today so that you can get more great news and content just like what you're hearing in your feed every single day, Monday through Friday from 5 a.m. Oh, excuse me, 5 a.m. Jesus, it's still early.
Trying
7
to
to
kill
9.
me.
Yeah, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, Mondays through Fridays. So check us out when you click that like and sub button. We appreciate that. Anna Bananarama over on the YouTube channel said, just go where New Yorkers have moved. I've got the best pizza in the world and I live in Arizona. Boo, boo, no. You
New
lie. Why do you
Yorkers go
lie
to
to us?
Florida.
She lies to us. She lies to us. Now they're talking about Detroit pizza is your favorite. Listen, I love me some Detroit pizza. I've had good pizza in Arizona, but nothing beats New York pizza. Now, Larry, I love the New York Post this morning. I read it every day. He says, "How many pizzas would you have to order to equal just one trip on John Kerry's private jet?" in
Absolutely.
in 2021, Kerry's private jet emitted an estimated 116 metric tons of carbon in less than a year. Private jets emit up to 40 times as much per CO2 per passenger as commercial flights. By comparison, the carbon footprint of a wood-burning stove is barely measurable. The 8 Billion Trees Project estimates that the carbon footprint of wood burning stoves can be up to 15 grams an hour. This is measured in grams, not metric tons. You'd have to burn a stove for 849 years to equal what John Kerry puts out in a year. Larry, your thoughts?
Without the hypocrisy is astounding. However, there is logic to it. And the logic is I can't stop John Kerry from doing that. And if he does it, I can't take credit for it, even if I do stop him. But I can take credit for changing New York State left and right. I can do that. And these guys can't fight back. And I keep saying that. They punish the little guy because he can't fight back. If you actually said, we're going to stop, no one can fly private in New York State or something like that, which I would be against completely. But in theory, if you said that to make it an impact, they would say, no, we're wealthy. We donate to you. We can fight back. We'll sue you. And it would actually work. These guys have no chance. The best chance some of these guys will have is some of them will be able to grandfather themselves in here or there, but they'll only be able to do it if one of two things. They know someone, which sadly is true, right? They know somebody, or somehow the local community gets together and says, well, you know what? We're going to landmark this in some way, shape, or form. But here's the problem. Once you landmark, this is also a form of control. If they decide, no, my pizzeria, it's a landmark, you can't destroy it, you can't take it, you've basically given your property over to your community. You've given it over to the government. And people don't know this in New York City. Your property can be landmarked by the city without you wanting to have your property landmarked. They can just decide that your property is landmarked. And what does that mean to you? That means you can't make any changes to your property unless your community board says yes. Now, here's the worst part. Are you still responsible for everything? Yes. So if your community board won't let you fix something and the city decides to punish you for it, you pay the fine. You pay for everything and you can't fix it because the community board won't let you. So you could do it if you want to, but do you want to? I think a lot of people are going to wind up just saying, you know what, I'm out, I'm done. Some are going to fight and try, then you're going to lose. And in the long run, sadly, no one's going to care. And here's the worst part of it all. New York City is struggling. We've gone under 8 million people. And for New York, that's a bad thing. We should not be under 8 million people, but we are. And the only thing that can bring us back is culture. Culture is why you come to New York City. That's why you come visit. You don't visit for the awesome people. I mean, I'm awesome, but that's about it. You don't really do that. You visit for the culture. It's why you do it, right? And so now we're destroying that. It's nothing but bad.
It's like saying we got to crack down on Broadway or something.
Yes, same thing. Yes.
Corey C says they don't have good pizza in San Diego. Very true. Although there's lots of other good things in San Diego. Good seafood. Doug H says pizza is a tomato tart with cheese. Change my mind. Boo this man. Boo.
Yes.
Boo.
No.
I miss New York pizza. I was talking to my wife about it the other day, how much I miss it, and I definitely want to come back and hang out with you soon, Larry. But I'd like to ask, you know what else my wife and I were talking about the other day, because we were talking about New York, is how much it costs to get into New York City. I was talking about the congestion in Manhattan and what I used to deal with when I used to drive from New York City to Washington, D.C. On a good day, I could make it in 4.5 hours. If there was a bike race in Manhattan, it would take me 7 hours to get from Queens to get me from Queens to DC. But apparently now, I remember having to pay $20 on one bridge to cross into Manhattan, but then I think you had to pay twice. There was like 2 bridges that cost almost like $20 each.
It was $18.
It was 18, but don't you have to pay it twice?
Yes. Each bridge, yes. Right. There's bridges to get into Manhattan and then bridges to get into Jersey. And then bridge needs to come back. Yes. So you've got to pay for
so
every
you've got
bridge.
two, right? But here's the thing: the federal government apparently approved your governor's congestion pricing plan. They're
Yes.
going to add a new amount for the toll. They're going to add a new congestion pricing a model for downtown that they say is going to help improve air quality in the same way, right? Where it's going to do like $9 to $23 per day to drive a car into the central business district. So you can,
Well,
if
not
you
even
want to
Central
drive,
Business, just under 60th Street. That's it.
so if you want to drive from New Jersey into Manhattan to the central business district, it's $60.
Well, depends how you get there, but yes. So yeah, it depends how you get there. And the worst part, of course, is the people who know New York City, the very wealthy, already live in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So they don't pay it. This is just a punishment for the working poor and the middle class, right? That's even, again, it's people who can't fight back. Note, every single time New York State punishes someone, it's always people who can't fight back. New York never takes on the big bullies they say they're going to take on. We're going to fight the heavy hitters. Never. New York is always about punishing people who can't fight back. And that's a perfect example you just brought up. Congestion pricing doesn't hurt the wealthy. They already live there, right? They're already there, and they could afford to pay it anyway. So even if you know it was against them, which it isn't, they could afford it. But now you have someone who, to your point, is already dropping $18. They already do this. If you go by some of the big bridges, there's cars on the side of the road. Why? Because people get out of their cars and carpool, basically black market carpooling, so they don't have to all pay the toll. They'd rather have 4 or 5 people in the car, split the toll for a couple bucks, and just leave their cars on the side of the road in Jersey because they can't get in to spend the money. Well, wow, that's insane. That's already happening. This is going to become worse. Where the people who live north, you know what area is north of 60th and so in Upper Manhattan? Yeah, Harlem. Yeah, people can't fight back. Yes, Spanish Harlem. There. Yes, and that's where all the cars are going to park now. They're all going to go in there. They're going to fill up all the parking areas so no one gets a parking spot, so they can all head down to the head downtown.
You need to go to Brooklyn to visit Quest Fanning, because he says, I've always supported congestion pricing, pay for what you use. So I want to see you guys fight it out like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, but that's going to have to happen another time. Larry, can I ask you really quickly before we let you go? And this is completely out of left field. I hope you don't mind. There's a lot of libertarian love for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. these days. I'm seeing there's a lot of Libertarian Party members saying they're going to register Democrat and vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I've never seen so many libertarian men get so horny so quickly as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. when he was shirtless the other day. So Larry,
he is buff. I'll give him that.
He is buff. Although I think you and I could still out bench press him. But I would like to get your take on the libertarian love for Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I think it's a fascination that this is a Democrat that I think we had a similar feeling for Tulsi Gabbard, right? When you find a Democrat who is anti-establishment, Democrats are completely establishment, right? When you find one that's actually anti-establishment, it's like finding a four-leaf clover. It's like finding something very special, and it does turn people on. And so look, if the Democratic Party was more like RFK, it'd be a better Democratic Party, right? So yeah, I get why they like it. Is it a good move for RFK, for us as Americans, to have him as a nominee? As far as Democrats go, yeah, I agree. And if you don't have a libertarian in your state, or you don't have a libertarian primary to go to, and you want to do that, it's not a bad move. The idea that they want to make him a libertarian, that's too far. I'm not ready to go there. If you want to have him as a Democrat running, okay, I get that. That's fine. But no, he's not a libertarian. That's not what he is. But he's one of the better Democrats, that's for sure.
There you go, one of the better Democrats. That really does kind of show how far our standards have fallen, though, Larry. I mean, because here's the thing.
Have you seen Joe Biden?
Yeah, I have. But here's the thing: isn't the Libertarian Party going to have their own presidential candidate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course. 100%. We're going to have one, and it's going to be great. I'm sure the person's going to be great. I'm sure it is.
Are you sure?
But that person's yes,
sure,
yes,
Larry?
I am. I am sure. Yes, yes, yes. It's good. The person's going to be great. Yes. All I'm saying is But there's no primary for the Libertarian Party. So if you want to vote in a primary for somebody,
Right.
I get it, right? Maybe you want the best Republican and you want the best Democrat to be in the primary, recognizing that as much as I love my libertarians, I think we know the odds of victory are slim. I think we know that, right? The odds are we're going to get a Democrat or Republican. That's the odds we can get one of those two. So if you want to vote to, get the best one into the general, but I hope you will still vote for libertarians in the presidential election. I hope you will. Then I understand that completely.
Larry, what's the best pizza in New York?
There are so many of them. I like Paula's Pizza, but Ray's Pizza is still good as far as more chain pizzas are good too. But I think one of my favorite pizzas I've ever had was a place in Brooklyn. I don't know if it's still there anymore. Brothers Pizza. I don't know if it's still there.
Brothers Pizza in Brooklyn, New York. I'm writing it down. I'm putting it on my map. We'll eat pizza there the next time I'm in New York. Larry Sharp, you are the man, and thanks for being up so early and joining us here on the show. We've been seeing you a lot lately, and it's sad because your state is going to hell in a
Not a good
handbasket.
thing. It's not a good thing.
Have a good one, Larry. Thanks so much for your time.
Alrighty.
Thanks very much. All right. Well, I'm going to skip the commercial break here for just a couple minutes because I've got lots of fun stuff going on. Well, fun stuff, weird stuff. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. If you like Larry Sharp, make sure you click that like button on whichever stream you're watching us on today. I see we've got a nice, good number of people on Rumble and on YouTube. We are coming up on our 1 year anniversary for the Wake Up America show. And I have to say, I'm so excited for how successful the show has been thus far. In the very beginning days of the Wake Up America show 1 year ago, when I started this venture, the community really rallied together to get us the nuts and bolts that we needed to be able to produce this show on a regular basis because it is quite expensive. And many people stepped in and became monthly donors or made significant upfront contributions to help me buy cameras and lenses and lights and microphones and computers and stream decks and all this stuff. So I really owe a debt of gratitude to the community of people who have helped us to get to the point now where we are starting to average around 100 viewers from the multiple networks that we're streaming on at one time. Especially, it's been exciting to see how much our Rumble audience has really stepped up and started to become much more active in the comments. One Patriot listener, one Kermode Bear, Nelson65, Levin24, Nathan joining us over there. I know people who come in at any one network sometimes will say, oh, there's only 31 people watching. Well, that's just on that one network. We've got another 37 over on YouTube. And from the statistics of what I've seen on Fire TV, Apple TV, and Roku, it's actually a few hundred over there as well. I don't count that in my statistics because I can't see it immediately, but I do get monthly reports on that. The Wake Up America show is building a good sized audience, a good base of people. And that has come from the support of viewers like you. I'm super grateful for all of the Cantina crew people on YouTube, as well as our friends over on Rumble that have been supporting us and helping us to grow. We've even got a couple of monthly supporters that are financial contributors to our Rumble channel as well. So if you like the show and you said to yourself, hey, I'd like to support Austin's entrepreneurial endeavors here, the Wake Up America show, then please consider subscribing to us on YouTube or on Rumble. Underneath the live chat over on Rumble, you can see there's a little subscribe button there that you can make a monthly contribution to the show to help us spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. My beautiful, loving wife helps me every day with the show or with the business in some way or another, whether it's shipping out products from our AP for Liberty shop website or being in the comments right now, helping to start conversation and to support people. I also really appreciate our moderators over on YouTube and our super moderators, people like Cheeky Mayor, who have really stepped up lately to help drop links to support our products on the store, as well as to drop informational links and people's Twitter accounts of our guests like Larry Sharp. So special shout out to all of our mods, people like people like Chris Morrill and Rare Camellia, Quest Fanning, Cheeky Mare, and others who are our super mods. I'm super grateful for all of you today. And don't forget, if you are watching us today on Rumble, we like to get those like counts as high as possible because it really does help us to get out in other people's feeds. So make sure you're clicking that like button to help support the show. And don't forget, too, if you do become a monthly sponsor of the show, no matter what your sponsorship level is, you do get 20% discounts at apforlibertyshop.com. And I see people using it all the time. So it's a great deal for you to get great merchandise that's, I think, a lot of fun and really popular in the Liberty community at my apforlibertyshop.com website. So check that out as well if you haven't seen my merch shop. It's really cool. All right. Who is more libertarian, Bernie Sanders or Karl Marx? Who is more libertarian, Robert F. Kennedy or Donald Trump? Somebody said the Bernie Sanders or Karl Marx thing when I was asking this morning. Who is more libertarian in your mind? And Robert F. Kennedy or Donald Trump Jr., the responses to that on Twitter have been pretty funny. I wonder what you think. Rare Camellia says a 1776 monthly membership is literally the cost of 2 coffee drinks. Liberty is better than coffee. Support us on the site or here. Yeah, so to support us on the site, if you want to have 100% of the revenue go to us, then it's best to sign up as a monthly sponsor at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Just an FYI. All right, so more lefty violence. So I've got a couple of clips that I'm going to play for you today of instances of leftist violence that typically goes unreported by the mainstream media. I want to share with you this clip that I got from The Blaze that really got my blood boiling, of this woman who is defending. Well, I'll just pull up the clip. Hold on, I got 2 clips here for you. This first clip. Here we go. Pause real quick. Okay, Twitter's. There we go. All right, take a look at this. This is a woman who is a former trans activist and LGBT nonprofit whistleblower. She was kicked, hit, pushed, and mobbed by dozens of people in Washington Square Park who are men who identify as women. I mean, she's literally being assaulted by men. They call themselves women, but this is what happens when you are a heretic in leftist circles. Take a listen. Look at this. She's a TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. Defend female sex-based rights. Look at her mobbing. You know, she thought that they were going to be tolerant. She thought that they were going to accept her because she is one of them, or at least she was formerly one of them. But what she does not understand is that the new woke politics changes the rules of the game at a moment's notice, and you must be willing to abandon everything that you have believed up until the 24-hour period that they have changed what they believe, and now you must accept the new woke politics based on what they believe. So this is a woman. She is a former trans activist, right? And an LGBT nonprofit whistleblower who was assaulted in Washington Square Park, assaulted by men dressed as women. Right? That's what we're talking about. Now, if there was a conservative man who slapped a woman in public, what do you think the media's response to that would have been? I mean, here, this is a perfect example of why so many people are leaving the left. It's disgusting behavior. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Sorry it's so loud, Chris. Moral, thanks for pointing it out, though. I'll be careful about that a little bit in the future. Here's another example of, well, could you really call this leftist violence?
For this brutal attack.
They are punching, kicking, and beating on this kid when he's laying on the ground defenseless.
The video is hard to watch. A 15-year-old boy attacked by 6 people. Police say it happened at 9:15 Monday night in the 100 block of Glen Arbor Road in Havertown. The victim had gone there to play basketball, not expecting to get jumped.
He apparently ran to the neighbor's house and was banging on the neighbor's door, calling, asking for help.
That neighbor called 911. Unlike any of the teen spectators, you can see them in the video, all apparently recording.
It's kind of disturbing that these other individuals are standing around just filming this poor kid on the ground.
One of those recordings ended up being the key piece of evidence.
One of the kids filming it apparently put it up on social media, and we were able to get that video off of social media.
All of the suspects believed to be between 14 and 17 years old. Police have arrested one of them.
They're facing at least aggravated assault, robbery, and other related offenses.
That teen suspect was in possession of the victim's shoes, a pair of Yeezy slides that police say the attackers may have been after. Those shoes can cost up to around $300. In that video, the victim screams to the attackers to just take the shoes, but they continue to chase and punch him.
Because they wanted more than your shoes, dude. They wanted to beat you up because you're a 15-year-old white kid. Six black teens attacking a 16-year-old white dude. They didn't want your sneakers, dude. They wanted to beat you up because of your race. And will this go down as a hate crime? Of course not. But if the situation was reversed, we'd hear about it for months. It's time to fight back. All right, I'm going to go to a really quick commercial break. Do not leave. You're not allowed, okay? Because I got another guest, right? And it takes me a second to, get them in, get them on the Zoom call, all right? I'm going to go get my guest. Who is my guest? I have no idea because I've been looking at a video. Tony Lavasco. We're going to get him on the phone. Unfortunately, he's not on video, but we're going to talk to him about the plan to tax us per mile we drive. That means they got to track us down. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. I told you not to leave during the commercial break, and you know what? You didn't. Thanks. Appreciate that. It's nice to see you guys sticking around. Besides, the commercials in this show are actually kind of cool, right? I produced them myself. Do you like my voice over there of Barack Obama? Oh, no, wait. We really got Barack Obama to voice that ad. It totally was not artificial intelligence. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by listeners and viewers just like you. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you click that like button and subscribe on whichever channel you're watching us so you can get more great Liberty content 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central. The Wake Up America show is all about economic freedom and personal liberty. Help us to spread the message of freedom, which is what my next guest is all about. His name is Tony Lavasco. He's a Missouri State Representative, and he's joining us now. Good morning, Tony. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. Well, one of the bad things about falling gas prices, Tony, is that bureaucrats and politicians get really nervous because the amount of revenue that's coming in from gas taxes go down. And when bureaucrats and politicians start losing money, they're looking for another way to pick our pockets. The newest proposal, Tony, is that we should charge people based on how much they drive, which of course means they'd have to install something in our vehicles if it isn't there already in order to determine how much we drive. What's your take on this?
Absolutely terrible idea, Austin. Not even remotely worth considering. It's interesting too. Everyone always jumps to that. Well, they need to install these tracking devices in your vehicle to keep track of your mileage, to report back, and make sure you're paying the right taxes. Which, of course, like government, is the most convoluted and complicated possible way of addressing that. If you were going to tax people's mileage, do it like you tax their personal property. You send them a form, you tell them to write down the amount, and you're just going to trust that it's right? And of course, most people are going to lie because that's how it's going to work. But at least that's something that people would perhaps consider. But the idea that anybody is going to sign up for having a government monitoring tool in their vehicle so that they can save a couple cents of gas tax, it's lunacy. The states that are doing these, so-called pilot programs are trying to incentivize it, and I see absolutely no benefit for the consumer whatsoever.
Well, who will build the roads, Tony? Don't we need taxes to build roads?
Well, that's interesting because everyone talks about how gas taxes are supposed to be like this great user fee, the closest thing that you've got to a libertarian taxation system, where only the people who pay for or use the roads are paying for it. Except for that's not actually how it works, right? There's no real connection between your how many miles you put on your car or how many gallons of gas you use and the wear and tear that you put on the roads. An 18-wheeler full of cargo is going to put exponentially more wear and tear and damage on the roadway than my Toyota Prius will in its entire lifetime. And it's amazing that we're pretending that these things are equivalent for the purposes of marketing or propaganda. It's just another way of taxing people, Austin. That's all it is.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lavasco. We're talking about the plan to charge motorists by the distance their vehicle travels rather than the gas that it guzzles, right? So the pilot program for this is being rolled out in Oregon right now. And the idea is that if the gas tax is, if the tax is tied to gasoline, then there's no way of necessarily having you can't have a funding source that is stable to the government to be able to build infrastructure. So you talked to Tony about the idea that maybe have people self-report, which no one is going to go for, Tony, because they don't trust us. But what is a really reliable way to fund the infrastructure that we rely on to get to work every single day?
I think honestly, the easiest way and most simplest way to replace that, if you absolutely have to, and I'm, of course, convinced that you don't absolutely have to. The government has plenty of money they could pull from somewhere else. Not everything needs a dedicated stream of revenue. But if they absolutely insisted, I would probably do something that would just be based on, your renewal of your license plates, where you pay whatever the fee it is to license your vehicle, and that's just going to go up a little bit, and then they just get rid of the gas tax entirely. I would imagine if you actually added up, the average person does not spend an insane amount of money on gas tax. They rely on the fact that almost everyone is driving, and it's an aggregate sum that they're bringing in. I think you could probably come up with a number that would make sense. I don't know. I don't like that proposal either. I think we ought to leave it alone. Mostly, Austin, I'm just frustrated by the fact that we got the federal government coming in and telling automakers, you must make vehicles that are more fuel efficient, or you will not be allowed to sell them. And they do that. And then they turn around and tell consumers, well, because you're using less gas for those vehicles that we made you buy that were more fuel efficient, well, we have to tax you somewhere else. It's completely self-fulfilling, and it drives it right back to more government control.
And we've already seen here in Missouri when they raised our gas tax that they created provisions for electric vehicles, didn't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a little reported fact that when the gas tax went up in the largest tax increase in my tenure, and I think it might have been in many decades in Missouri, they doubled the electronic fuel vehicle decal tax, which the fact that that's even a thing is kind of insane. There's a sticker you've got to buy if you have an all-electric vehicle, and it's basically the equivalent of prepaying a certain amount of gas tax that they estimate that you're going to use. And they doubled that fee when they raised the gas tax. So, they will not stop regardless of what you're doing. Sooner or later, they're going to start saying, well, too many people are using bicycles. We need to tax that. Or, you know what? Anybody who can walk, extra tax for having legs. It's insane.
Well, it's funny because the left is all about environmentalism. You would think that they would want to encourage people to get away from fuel, emissions based vehicles. But what they realize is that means that they can't tax us because of the scheme that they set up for fuel taxes. So they have to charge you more to go and do the thing that they tell you that they want you to do, but then they don't want you to do. It's sort of like the self-employment tax. I don't I drive here to get to my job, but it's not very far. And most of the time I'm working from home. But if you work from home or if you're self-employed, you have to pay the self-employment tax. You'd think they'd want to encourage people to work from home because it's less emissions, but then they realize they can't tax you as much.
Well, what's the saying, Austin, that if you want less of something, you tax it, and you want more of something, you subsidize it? The government manages to do both on the same item and then wonders why they get nowhere. It's amazing to me.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lavasca. We're talking about death and taxes, which are the same thing essentially to many libertarians like ourselves. Tony, I'd like to switch subjects if you don't mind, Tony, because I haven't asked you. Have you picked a presidential candidate yet?
Oh man, I am not too excited about the prospects of next year's election. I think it's going to be a mess.
Oh God,
I've
it's
been
already
watching the
that.
field. I think the tough part is going to be coming out, in a situation where anybody from any major political party has any credibility whatsoever with the average voter.
Mm-hmm.
You and I that follow all of this and do the blow by blows might be able to analyze it and make a top pick based on what we think would be best for the country or whatnot. But that's not how a lot of voters work. They're going to be following this very loosely. Maybe they'll watch the debates. And if every single moment is everybody ripping each other apart to no end, where absolutely no one is actually coming up with ideas that people think are valuable and would bring the country together, a lot of people are either going to stay home or they're just going to skip that entirely and vote for governor or whatever. And I think we're going to have a huge situation where a record number of people may turn out to vote, but we're actually going to have a record number of people actually just not making a selection in that race. And I think that's really disappointing.
Tony, I follow mostly libertarians on Twitter, libertarians, conservatives, right wingers, some Republicans, and things like that. And my feed was inundated in the last 48 hours with shirtless photos of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Did you happen to see those?
Unfortunately, yes.
So we say unfortunately, so that they didn't make you horny like so many other libertarian men, because it really seemed a lot of libertarian guys were really.
I'm sorry.
I mean, there were a lot of libertarian men who really got turned on by those photographs. I mean, very straight, very heterosexual libertarian men were simping for RFK Jr. What's your take on the man?
Well, I think he's got an interesting tactic. I think, it's the first time that I can really remember that an alternative candidate has really actively courted the libertarian vote, which I think is decent for the movement in general, that at least he thinks that there's enough folks voting for liberty that it's worth paying attention to. I think that's a great sign. Whether he's a viable candidate, I would say probably not, at least not based on what I'm seeing, metric-wise. But, you never know. They said Ross Perot wasn't a viable candidate, and he took a pretty big chunk. So anything's possible. And certainly with this field where everyone is dissatisfied, I think anything could happen. But it's a little bit early to know for sure.
Do you think that if it was Donald Trump versus Robert F. Kennedy Jr., would you vote for a Democrat?
Well, I got to tell you, his position on guns is not amazing, Austin. So
Well,
no, I don't think he can get
Donald Trump doesn't have an advantage in that realm.
Well, that is correct. And you notice I didn't actually use the proper noun there. I just said his position on guns is not amazing.
Well, so then
uh,
so then who is more libertarian, Donald Trump or Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
well, I got to say, Donald Trump gave us Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, which is one of the most libertarian things that's happened in the last 30 years when it comes to actually practically advancing freedom. So I'd have to go Donald Trump in that case, just
Oh.
based on his quote text.
See, I agree with you, Tony, but there's a lot of our libertarian friends, and I think it's because of like the chemtrails or not the chemtrails, the vaccines that they're big, RFK Jr. fans and stuff. So it's like there's a lot of that overlap because we are, whether you and I like it or not, we are a very conspiracy community. Tony, we're kind of like we're being the rationalist in the libertarian community puts us in the minority. So there's probably a lot of that overlap. But then Donald Trump too, he really brings like the MAGA people and stuff like that. They have that kind of that conspiracy, sort of miasma or what do you call it, right? So it's kind of like it's like they are the kind of the two prison planet candidates, wouldn't you say?
I suppose you could put it that way.
Yeah,
I like to remind people that, the government absolutely is out to get you, just not in the way that you probably think.
sure, but
So,
do you think
the reality is the none of these, hot button single issue voting blocks are likely to decide an election.
yeah.
I think, if you're going to pick a candidate based on who you think is going to be the best to advance liberty, you got to pick someone who has a shot at winning, but also more specifically has a shot of actually doing the things that you would like them to do. And that's a lot harder decision than just who has the best sound bites.
That's true. And one last thing here on the RFK question. He's made statements in recent weeks designed to get people who are curious about guns or are pro-gun to not be mad at him because even though he's made many anti-gun statements when he was a good Democrat, he's starting to change his tune, which I don't. When a politician does that and running for office, I don't believe them. But he also says that the CIA killed his uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr. So I always wondered if he really truly believed that the CIA killed his uncle. Why was his position on gun control that we need to restrict civilian use of guns? Wouldn't it make more sense to restrict the government's use of guns?
Well, sure. Expecting politicians to make sense is perhaps expecting a lot, Austin. But I think the issue there, when you got somebody who has, his entire life grown up within the sphere of governments, and whether you want to call it the swamp or what, like, you can't exactly expect somebody to immediately jump to, well, of course we must make government smaller, right? That is kind of expecting a lot from someone like that. That being said, I mean, he does seem like his rhetoric is moving in the right direction. Whether he moves the needle or not in the election, I guess we'll find out. But I will say I will never discourage anybody from making the right positions publicly, even if they're being disingenuous. It's still helpful in that we're talking about liberty. So
I
I
like
guess
that,
that's right.
Tony. That's a really. I'm going to clip that. I like that take on that. Do you think the CIA did kill his uncle?
I think they killed a lot of people. I don't know about that guy specifically.
Well, okay, wait. One last thing on there. Was the CIA's assassination of Che Guevara an example of government competence?
Well, I suppose they did kill him, so they succeeded in their goal. I suppose if that's how you define competence, whether it was a wise and proper thing to do, I'd say no, of course not. That being said, it did definitely destabilize that area and advanced our agenda for all of 3 minutes before things got way worse. So I don't know. I guess if you're a neocon, it's a great plan.
I don't have a 3-hour time period to explain to you why it was proper and correct for the CIA to assassinate Che Guevara, Tony. So I'm going to leave you with the last word on that one. But thank you very much, Tony, for your time. We went from gas taxes to the assassination of Che Guevara. Thank you very much for your time today, Tony, and appreciate you standing up for freedom. Have a great day.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you very much. What kind of show are you watching right now? It's the Wake Up America show where we get all kinds of weirdness like that. Only on the Wake Up America show will you get stuff like that with Tony Lavasco. Let's give him a hand. Did you like that? We've got lots more great stuff to go. I can't wait to talk to Camelia Peterson about Steven Crowder's divorce trial. Well, it's not really about Steven Crowder's divorce, even though it is. That's the news hook anyway. But it's really about the fact that he's pushing for 100% custody of their kids. The man take 100% of custody. His wife says 50-50. He says, no, I want all of the children's. And I think that's an interesting discussion right there. So we'll talk about that with Camelia at 8 o'clock. And then at 8:30 a.m. Central, we're going to speak to a young man by the name of Matthew Adelstein. He's a young left-wing liberal. He's out there as just graduated from high school, and he's in arguing in favor of free speech. And he did that actually online. In one tweet, he argued in favor of free speech, and he lost a high school debate over it that had nothing to do with free speech. What the hell? We're going to talk to Matthew Adelstein at 8:30 about why he lost a debate over woke politics. It had nothing to do with the debate. We're going to talk to him in, so not very far away. But before I do, I want to remind you that the Wake Up America show, freedom isn't free, but you can get it for a damn good price, 10% off at shellshockcbd.com. I endorse and recommend shellshockcbd.com for pain relief because it works for me and it will work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, they've got a 100% money back guarantee. Shellshock CBD is an American-made, American-owned, veteran-owned business that brings awesome products, delicious gummies, great hemp teas, a line of CBD products and Delta 8 products that will make you smile. No, seriously, the products, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Stephanie, my lovely wife, comes in on Fridays and we do Family Friday. And I had one of the Delta 8 gummies, and it didn't kick in during the show, unfortunately for you, but it did later when we went to McDonald's, because I always take her to breakfast after the show just to be sweet. And we went to McDonald's for breakfast, and I ate breakfast at McDonald's, and then I ate lunch at McDonald's. So if you like to eat, if your appetite's low and you need to gain some weight, you try some Delta 8. But they also have the non-psychoreactive CBD gummies as well that you can get for pain relief. And I love this roll-on, roll-out freeze oil that I used on my back when I threw it out in karate a few weeks ago. Check out shellshockcbd.com. Use my code AP4Liberty. That's AP the number 4, AP4Liberty to get 10% off. Just shop around the site today. Maybe you're not necessarily ready to buy something and you maybe don't get paid till Friday, but do me a favor. Will you bookmark the site and just go and browse around shellshockcbd.com, and then don't forget that you've got to get that 10% discount, AP4Liberty. AP4Liberty. All right, we will be right back. When we do, we're going to talk to Camelia. Camelia, you're breaking my heart. Corey C says that the Rack Out gummies got me some great sleep last night. Very nice. Good. Hey, Cheeky Mare, thanks so much for dropping that code, by the way. She says, woohoo, big spender, McDonald's for breakfast. You know what the lovely thing is about my wife is that she is easy to please. I just appreciate that so much. Easy to please in more ways than one. We'll be back with more. Camelia Peterson to talk about Steven Crowder's 100% kids rate. What is... You know, I make these intros and outros for segments out like on the spot, right? One day I'm gonna have a producer and a writer, and they're gonna write my intros and write my outros. It's gonna be really produced, and you won't see me making all these stupid fumbles and stumbles like that. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1. You can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2. Most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3. You're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell! This commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at Wake Up America Show. If we keep posting up big numbers like we're doing yesterday and today, I'm gonna have to do something. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but build a new wing on my house. No, I don't think so. I don't know, have a child. What would you say? Maybe it's time for Austin and Stephanie to get busy making little babies. What do you think? For us to wake up America. We don't need to beat the leftists. We need to outbreed the leftists. We need to have lots and lots of libertarian little babies running around. What do you think? Would you like to see Austin Peterson with a little half me and then half Steffi P? What would our baby for liberty be? So it would just baby for liberty? That's what we're going to start their Twitter accounts. It'll be baby P for liberty. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show right now, do us a favor. Click that like button as you sit down and enjoy the content. And if you are enjoying the content and you are not subscribed, whichever channel you're watching us on, do us a favor and click that subscribe button. We want to know who you are. We want to meet you. We want to make friends, and we'd love to hear more from you in the future. So during the commercial break, I sent a chat request over to our friend Camelia Peterson. She's supposed to be on the show, and she hasn't responded yet. So we don't know what happened to Camelia. Last I heard, she had to jump in the shower, and maybe she fell down in the shower and hit her head, and she's blind in 2 eyes now. It's quite possible. And she's stumbling, looking for the way to get to the Zoom. Have you ever seen that scene in, what they call it, Kill Bill, when they're in the trailer and the one lady with like the patch over her eye gets into the fight with Uma Thurman's character, and then she like does the little like, you know, karate move where she like snatches out her eye, right? But it's like that's her only eye, so she's like rolling around all over the place trying to find it. She's like, and then like the snake, the cobra, is like slithering around looking for her. That's kind of what I imagine is probably happening right now, and that's why Camelia has not joined us in the chat. But I guess it is a little bit early. She was scheduled to be on for 8 a.m., and it is 7:59, so it's entirely possible that she thought to herself, okay, well, I'm just going to not be on the Wake Up America show today until 8 a.m. I'm going to make Austin sit there and tap dance and improv until finally he decides to join in. Daryl Hannah, thank you very much, Studio 3114. Appreciate that very much. Glad to have you here. Sarah Palacio says, I can't freaking wait to meet your babies. I can't freaking wait either. Glad to have you here. Camelia is MIA. That's correct. The patch wearing lady, correct. Cheeky Mare says, babies can't consent to social media. I wouldn't make anything for the baby. Very true. Quest says, this has taken a dark and unexpected turn. Yes, it has. It has taken a dark and unexpected turn. The expectation was that Camelia Peterson would be joining us, but she is not here. So usually I have backup stories to talk about, but in Camelia's case, I didn't have them because she's always so reliable typically. Here's a story for you. How about this? This was a really good one, actually. This was a video. This is a cute video of Vanilla the chimp, caged for her entire life, sees the sky for the very first time. And like, before we start like throwing out references to
new
28 days later,
is finally here with 5% alcohol. Freak out responsibly.
Oh my god. So while we wait for Camelia to get in, how about this? I've got a video of Vanilla the chimp, caged for his entire life, sees sky for the first time. And of course, it's going to play a little commercial. Here we go. Check this out. This is beautiful. Now watch Vanilla's eyes. Now look, first time seeing the sky. Ooh, very nice. So cute. See, there we go. Vanilla looking up at the sky for the very first time, gets to live on a 100-acre estate on an island. Look at this. This is a little chimp island. Poor Vanilla was like part of science experiments, probably some kind of Dr. Fauci-ouchie stuff. But I really love this video. Let's go back to the very beginning. You can see here. Watch this now. Vanilla is going to be the one that just hopped out on the right. Watch Vanilla's eyes. Look at that. Oh, beautiful. Caged birds. There you go. Beautiful. You love to see it. You love to see it. Well, the Wake Up America show has got lots of great clips and stories for you today to share, as well as more video clips, which I might have to jump to in just a few minutes if I don't get Camelia Peterson joining us. I was going to bring her on today to talk about Steven Crowder's divorce trial. Boy, now I really am worried that she's like pulling a Daryl Hannah and thrashing around in her trailer. Steven Crowder's divorce trial is, well, you guys know Steven Crowder. He's going to be, I think he's the show right after me on Rumble. Well known for his Change My Mind series, right, where he goes out to college campuses typically and gets in debates about politics. But we talked about this a couple of months ago. Ring video camera came out of footage of him and his wife getting into an argument, seen arguing with his pregnant wife, right? And but in the video, he demands his wife do wifely things, which I do as well. I demand my wife do wifely things. As a matter of fact, this is kind of funny. So ever since that video came out and my wife and I watched it, now I talk to my wife on like Steven Crowder. So I will like say things to Stephanie and be like, do your wifely duties, things like that. And I'll be like, and also remember when he was like, watch it. Now I kind of do that, and I talk like that to Steffi, which I think is kind of fun and funny. I'm Most people don't think that's funny, but I got to be careful though that I don't end up on my Ring camera while I do things like that. That people won't take a joke and they won't realize I'm just kidding. So hopefully Camellia will get the Zoom invite that I just sent to her right now. I just got a message from her. She says, "Have you rang? I didn't get a call on my Zoom." She probably doesn't even know that I've been teasing her for the last 5 minutes. But yes, I did send the invite to you, Camellia. Maybe I should just copy the invite link, go over to Facebook, drop it in your DMs. Usually what I do is I send it over to her by a little ping over on Zoom, but she's not there. Here we go. She says she didn't get a call. There you go, Camellia. Hopefully you'll be able to jump into it and join us. So now I talked to my wife like Steven Crowder as a joke, right? Just where I'm kidding. She says, Stephanie is over on the live stream now. She says, "I enjoy doing my wifely duties. I'm currently vacuuming." Watch it, Steffi. Watch it. But apparently, but I never say things like I don't love her, right? That was one thing that Steven says, is that he doesn't love her, right? And then he says, prove that she's committed to him. She has to walk the dogs and put on gloves to administer the dog medicine. You know what? Stephanie and I, she feeds the dogs and I squeeze their little buttholes too because they can't express their anal glands. So it's actually a really good thing. She does her wifely duty. She feeds the dogs and I grab their little buttholes and then do the little anal squeezings to squirt out that little stinky stuff that they can't get out by themselves. Looks like Camellia Peterson's going to be joining us in 30 seconds or less. She's connecting to audio. She's here now. And she's got, well, at least one good eye joining us right now. Camellia Peterson, how are you?
I'm good. I was like waiting for your call.
Do you have any idea what I've been saying for the last 5 minutes on the show at all?
No, because I was, being a good guest and like turned my phone down so that I wasn't listening to it.
You're going to want to roll it back at some point this morning and hear some of the things that I had to say because I think they're quite hilarious. Camellia Peterson, thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
I'm happy to be here. Good morning from Iowa.
Iowa. Well, we're glad to have you here, even though you're in Iowa, Camellia. Talk to us about Steven Crowder. He is being divorced by his wife, but he's pushing for 100% custody. Can you give our audience the breakdown of what's happening?
So I don't really fully understand why he's requesting 100% custody, but this kind of popped up and some of the things that were said about it that you sent me were women. It was a response to women who were questioning, saying that people should be jailed, like women should be jailed if they don't allow fathers custody or visitation, with their children. And so there's this ongoing debate about, if fathers get equal custody in divorce cases. And so usually the premise is that no, men typically are not awarded equal custody in divorce cases and preference is given to the mother. But in this case, it's a little different. Steven Crowder is going for 100% custody. And it is a little unusual given all of the drama that has come out about that and that Ring camera video where it looks like he's being pretty abusive to his wife verbally. We don't know all the facts. I mean, when I look at stuff like this, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're talking about somebody's divorce in public and, like, why should we should not be doing that. But at the same time, Steven Crowder is a public figure. He is the one who made his divorce very public. He is the one who called for unsealing the court records regarding the divorce. And ironically, apparently, in their hearing the other day, his attorneys were asking for it to be closed, for no outside reporters or anybody to be allowed in the courtroom. And I think the judge was kind of like, well, you've already made this really public, and kind of pointed out the hypocrisy in that. So I didn't realize, by the way, in Texas courts, you cannot, in the courtroom, you can't record audio or video. So there was somebody in there who was taking notes. So we have that information from there. But yes, he has apparently 4 lawyers and is requesting 100% custody. And there's really, I haven't seen a good reason why. I'm sure we don't know all of the details, but it does kind of bring up the conversation of equal, rights in parenting.
Uh, there's a prominent YouTuber. She goes by the name Just Pearly Things on YouTube, and she's kind of become a commentator in the manosphere, talking about men's rights and things. She posted a tweet yesterday that got a lot of pushback from some people. Nuance Bro on Twitter says, "What do you think about Crowder going for full custody of his kids when his wife is asking for 50-50 custody? He has 4 lawyers and she has 1." But Pearl responded like this. She says, "Why are we rewarding women who leave marriages? Calling that leaked clip of them as abuse was a stretch. She left, not him. We should applaud for men who fight for custody." Um, your thoughts?
So I'll say this. I was thinking about this morning, last night, and all of a sudden it struck me the irony of the fact that there are women who are in the quote unquote red pill community giving advice to men. Like, that seems a little upside down from what the premise is of the red pill community. But I think it's a typical example of this performative nonsense that goes on with the TradCon accounts, especially it seems like more so in the case with women often than anybody else. And they take it too far. I mean, it's not about whether or not men deserve custody. Of course they deserve custody. Children need both parents. It's this idea that in saying that men deserve, equal custody, now we need to start punishing women because they don't stay with men, even if they're not, if it's for good reasons. Like, that's,
Is it
it's
a
always
good
a bridge
reason
too
though?
far.
Is it a good reason? I mean, watch it. You don't, I mean, what constitutes verbal abuse these days? Anything can be considered verbal abuse. It's like, oh, I said something mean to you once. That's verbal abuse. I mean, standards seem to be getting pretty damn low for abuse these days, Camelia.
Maybe, but I mean, the flip side to that is, do you want to, because there's also been this conversation about, oh, maybe we need to change the divorce laws and not allow women to divorce.
Well,
Like,
should we allow
what
women to
the
divorce?
hell? Yes. I mean, for
Why?
pity's sake.
What's the point of a contract that one person can break?
Well, I mean, I guess that means that you should make sure your contract is rock solid at the very beginning. And the unfortunate thing is that when we allow the state to step in and make those contracts for us, then we often don't like what we get, and that has not worked in favor of men. Uh, I'm all in favor of a contract, but the reality is that you should not lock yourself into a contract that you have no way out of. But it also comes down to individual rights and whether or not you are being treated correctly. And do you really want a spouse that is going to stay with you when they do not want to be there? And then you should weigh that for how good that is for your children and the environment that they are going to then be in with 2 people who do not want to be under the same roof.
Okay, but yes, good point. But she's leaving him. So it
Sure.
makes perfect sense for why he would want full custody of his kids.
Why? I mean, like, is there something? She's their mother, as much as we talk about how much children need their fathers, I mean, they also need their mothers.
First of
And
all,
so,
in the video, he clearly states that she doesn't do her wifely duties, and she just despite she doesn't do her wifely duties. She didn't get him wood pellets and steaks for his grill, and she was going to leave him alone there, unable to drive anywhere else because it was the only car, so he couldn't visit his friends, he couldn't go visit his family, he couldn't like go, play Xbox with his buddies if they invited him over. So, in my mind, he
now
deserves the
I'm here to
kids.
tell you, when you put it like that, boy, that is a man's man, and who could possibly resist that?
Oh my God. Oh my God. This shit is just too funny. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad to get you here. Glad to have you here on the show today. The numbers of viewers on both streams is really making me happy. I know people are like, Austin, you don't have 1,000 people watching you. You're nobody. I don't care. I love that there's almost 100 people watching us live now on the regs every morning, and I get to introduce to you my good friends, people like Camelia Peterson. We've had Larry Sharp on the show today, Tony Lavasco. You don't get content like this anywhere else. There are no other shows like this. We're number one, the best morning show. So make sure you click like and subscribe so that you can come back and join us to have fun conversations just like this. Anna Banana, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say a little Missouri note related to this is that Missouri just passed a law that is requires that basically is a 50-50 shared parenting custody law. And it requires judges to start each case with the presumption that equal or, approximately equal, time for each parent is in a child's best interest. So before, they really started from a much more subjective assumption in what they thought was best for the child, but this requires them to start at that 50-50, and then they can look at evidence for why it should be otherwise.
Do you think like not getting wood pellets, and I hear he has a bad back, do you think that things like that factor in? Bert Crash says Crowder wasn't the one who asked for this. You get married, you're responsible for that. They've screwed me over divorce, and you're taking one clip out of context, I really think. He says, you're better than this, man. Why are you even talking to NG? I have no idea. About another man's personal life. There are far more important things going on in the world. See, I disagree because, divorce and custody, this affects all of us. This is something that if you've been married or if you are married, these are issues that really matter to people. Steven Crowder really isn't the issue here. The issue here is the issue here. He's only a news hook for us to get into this discussion, which needs to be had, which is about, it's not about Steven Crowder's personal life. It's about all of our personal lives and what the role the government has in deciding who is a fit parent. And Camelia, I think you would agree that family courts have been very one-sided up until this point.
Sure, and I think that has gotten better because there have been individuals and there have been groups who have worked very hard to bring that to public attention and to change that. And so I do think we have seen a lot of improvement in that case. And I think when we see laws that pass in Missouri like they just did, I mean, that's great progress. That should be what we go for, because if parents cannot be adult enough to, for whatever reason, to come to an agreement and you need, a third party to step in, they should come looking at it with the assumption that a child needs both parents equally and then work from there. And you're right, this is not just about Steven Crowder. And let me tell you, people who are interested, and I know Bert is, people who have a vested interest in the culture wars, because that's really what this is about. This is about the culture wars, and this is about why we are where we are. And there's how, like, this is a can of worms that we could probably go 2 hours about, but that is why we have the manosphere or the red pill community right now, is this reaction to feminism. And unfortunately, sometimes reactions tend to go too far the other way in an overreaction, but the premise is the same, is that we have belittled and feminized men to the point to where our view of masculinity and manhood as a society is so skewed. There's even a very good argument to be made that this is occurring and has been occurring in the church at large for a long time too, which would, contribute a lot to this. Because one of the things this has been a thing I've been on lately too, to be honest. So, and I've been thinking a lot about this, because when you talk about the culture wars, and it's an individual problem. I mean, we've had the moral majority years. Was that successful? No. You cannot legislate morality. And we have this now national populist movement on the right that is trying to go back to those days and use the force of government to legislate what you do in your bedroom. People are now talking again about putting, homosexuals back in the closet. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, so there are, we are not, the solution, I heard said the other day, has always been the individual. And this whole thing with neoconservatism and national populism, and even how the church has done things, is very collectivist.
I sat down. I had a couple hours to kill because I was mowing, and that's when I usually listen to either books on tape or podcasts. So I listened to that full podcast that you sent me, Camellia, which is kind of one of those little like, hee hee, not something I would share publicly, but now we're going to talk about it publicly. It was the red pill. The red pill versus tradcons. And for those
Right.
of you who are like, listening and you're like, what the hell are we talking about? We're talking about sort of more, libertinish men who take a very dim view of marriage versus the more socially conservative Matt Walshes of the world. And they were bagging on Matt Walsh because people like Matt Walsh admit and acknowledge that men get screwed over in marriage and that it's not a good deal for men and that men typically get the short end of the stick in marriage, but you have to do it anyway because you have to populate the earth for Jesus. And they were ripping him to shreds because Matt was talking out of both sides of his face about how men should have to submit, and it's all about being a servant leader, and it's all about how the only thing that the church and many other like of the pastors that they played from their sermons were talking about that the only solution that traditional conservatives offer to the men in their flock is to be a servant leader, and that they serve these matriarchal churches that put the needs and the wants and the feels. It's feels before reals, they said, right? The idea is
Yeah.
that what your feelings matter more than what is actually real. And I really like the analogy, or is it a simile or a metaphor? I'm not sure. Where the pastor took the rose and he passed it around the congregation, and he was saying when the rose made it back to him after it had been so abused and handled by everybody in the congregation, it was broken, it was wilted, it was destroyed. He's like, now who wants this rose? And the liberal pastor who was in there in the sermon, who was listening to that, was sitting next to some women who had, I don't know, can I say, hoard herself out for like most of her life or whatever. She, she had been around the block a few times. He was embarrassed because the preacher was talking about chastity and purity, and he was upset because he was trying to bring this woman to God, but you know he didn't want the pastor to talk about purity and chastity because he wanted to try and bring the soul of Jesus. So when the pastor goes, "Who wants this now? Who would want this rose?" The pastor was like, who was watching, was like, Jesus would want this rose and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you got to admit, I mean, most of the tradcon movement, like they want to have this restoration of the moral majority, but the fact is most of them are pretty effing cucked.
Well, and here's the thing, because this is not to diss on religion or faith or anything like that. And there are churches who do not do this, but at large, the church has very much promoted men leading and masculinity, but there is always this undercurrent of, why do you do that? And I think their reasons why you do that are all upside down. I was talking to our friend Kathy Jo Loy the other day, and I told her, I was like, I think that one of the biggest failures in the church has been that people come in and they've got their problems and they've got their issues, and they basically are told that be a Christian, read your Bible, and that fixes you. And so they don't ever do the work of just of transformation within themselves and self-actualization to actually make those changes. They're relying on it for someone else, and I think that that's part of the issue. One of the things that was said in that video, which by the way I did share publicly,
oh, you did?
And I was like, I know I did. I was like, I know some of you people are going to be appalled, but
I'm the only one who watched it. But here's the thing. Like one of the points in that video that I really liked was they talked about how a lot of these young pastors of these mega churches, it's such a grift, but the grift is because they grift because the majority of the people who are in the churches now are women. And so they have to they have to preach to the butts that are in the chairs. So it sort of the church is one of the places that these men are going to get emasculated or or to become feminized. And that's why so many men are seeking out the red pill community, and why the traditional conservatives are so angry at the red pills and are attacking the Andrew Tates and all these other guys, even though Andrew Tate's kind of disavowed the red pill or whatever. But it's because the red pill offers actual masculinity, where these mega churches offer they offer Joel Osteen, right? They offer feminine approved men. And boy, if there's one thing that I've learned as a man in my life, is that it is always a waste of time trying to seek out the approval of women, because you'll never
And
get
for
it.
men,
You'll never get it.
well,
Anyone who seeks
maybe.
the approval of a female will never receive it.
Well, no, okay, there's a lot of truth to that, and I think that that's I won't deny that, and I think it's because of the fact that that's where they're looking for their validity. They want to be validated by a woman, and it's the wrong approach, and it's part of the approach that we have seen culturally, and not only in our political circles, but also in our culture circles with church and our institutions of society. Is like, we don't talk about being good for goodness sake. We talk about being good because somebody tells you to. We talk about being good so that you can be a good man to protect women. We talk about being good for your family. We talk about being a good mother for your children. There's all of these other reasons. None of that is why you should be being good, why you should be a better person. And that's part of what the point that, some of this, what they're saying in the red pill community is like, they said, what's the solution to this? And one of the guys said, and this is like the biggest thing. This is actually why I tweeted it, is like, the solution is individual. It's always been individual.
What does that mean,
Fix
though,
you.
Camelia? What does that mean?
That means you fix you. You focus on you first, because if you are working on your own character and your what you need to do as a person to be a good person, and whatever, whether that's different for a man and a woman a lot of times. But if you're focused on that, then the byproduct of that is that you are going to be a good person in the lives of everybody who is in your circle. You are going to be a good husband. You're going to be a good wife, because it's not selfish to prioritize your own self-actualization first, because it's what makes you better for the people around you. And the irony is like, a lot of people look at red pill community, because a lot of it's what's put out there, and they think, oh, well, they're telling men that they should, go sleep around with women and this, that, and the other. But some of the main figures in that are people who have been married for 30 years.
Yeah, that's true.
They've been married for a long time.
That's true. Stephanie and I were talking about this just the other day, and we were talking about like what is able to contribute to a good marriage. I think I'll make absolutely no one happy when I say that I think women should largely keep their chastity, but men should probably sow their wild oats while they're young, so they get it out of their system. And it is the job of the woman to refuse. And the good women will be the ones left standing that haven't, been visited by most men. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. Austin,
Well,
nobody liked that. Down, like
all the poor women who are the women the men are supposed to go do that with, they're just screwed.
They are screwed. They are screwed, and it is, and at the end of the day, when they turn 35 years old, remember there is a lucrative career in the cat industry for cat products and for anything cat related. So not I don't really think there is somebody for everybody. I know Stephanie disagrees with me on that one, but I just think that some people are meant to be alone.
I do. Well, and I would agree with you there. And I also don't think that there's just one person for everybody. This is like an unpopular idea. This is probably where I get a lot of the way I am, is from my dad, because my dad always grew up saying that, like, there's no such thing as this love at first sight, one person only. Like, you have that one person out there in the world for you. And like, that's kind of been, what's the, happily ever after pop culture thing that we pushed for so long. That's actually why I liked the movie Frozen at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was because they didn't go for the love at first sight, happily ever after kind of story. It was like, the love at first sight thing turned out to be like what it usually is. It fools you. It's not great.
Amelia, you are going to have so much fun reading the comments over on YouTube when the segment is over. from everybody about this subject, but unfortunately, I got to let you go because I've got a young man who lost a debate because of a tweet that he made, and the woke politics won the day. It's going to be an interesting segment. I hope you'll stick around and listen to it. Thanks for beaming into us all the way from Iowa.
My pleasure. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Camellia Peterson? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Don't go away. I'm not going away for very long. I'm just going to play a real quick little commercial break, and then I'm going to go get this kid, Matthew Adelstein. He's actually a young lefty, and he lost a debate because of a tweet that he made supporting free speech. He lost a debate because they brought up the tweet. It had nothing to do with the debate. It's going to be an interesting conversation. You don't want to miss it, so stick around. We'll be back on the Wake Up America Show. Excuse me, on WakeUpAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericashow.com. Have you been enjoying the show so far? Good. Well, I'm glad the studio audience is liking it, but I can't hear the live stream audience. Do you guys like the show? What is that? Oh, there's only one way to let us know. You got to click that like button if you're enjoying the stream so far. And if you enjoy the content and you're not subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button as well so that you can get great content 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. The 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. slot should be reserved for the Wake Up America show with me, Austin Peterson. We've got lots of great guests, content, and topics every single day, some of the best interviews in Liberty, and especially because the presidential campaign has already begun. You're going to want to stay tuned to the show so that you can hear about your favorite presidential candidates, and you'll hear analysis, criticism of each of the candidates as things go along to 2024. I'm going to try and stay neutral as much as I can. And if you hear me criticizing your favorite presidential candidate, just so you know, I criticize all of them. I'm going to look at them from the viewpoint of economic freedom and personal liberty and where they stand. Somebody asked me on Instagram yesterday, Austin, I really like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's my first election I can vote in. You know, what do you think that I should do? And my response to him was actually pretty simple. And I said that the best thing that you can do is to wait until you hear from them where they stand on a variety of issues. Let me see if I can find the actual post. Oh yeah, he says, Austin, it'll be my first time voting, and I'm really liking RFK. Any insight into what you're feeling for the upcoming election? And I said, keep your options open. They will all disappoint you, and you'll be embarrassed that you supported any of them publicly. Wait until the debates to see who emerges as credible and worthy of your vote. Yes, I think that's the best way to go, because, you know, sometimes you pick your presidential candidate a little bit early, and you're out there and you're supporting them, and then they go and they poop the bed, and they say or do something completely stupid. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for Matthew Adelstein to mosey on in, I did send him the chat. Hopefully he will be joining us in just a couple minutes. I thought I'd play a little clip for you that I found last night, which is pretty brutal stuff. This shocking video captured the moment that a fisherman was bitten by a shark that pulled him overboard into the murky waters of Florida's Everglades last Friday. This was seconds after he shrugged off his friend's warning. Take a look at this and listen to what his buddy has to say to him right before he gets dragged overboard into the murky water. Let's take a look at this. All right, check this out. Put your hands in there. It's 2 seconds. It's not gonna do anything.
Get him!
Okay, let's analyze this video intensely because we've got time anyway. Shark attack in Everglades National Park. Don't make this mistake. Keep your hands and feet in the vessel. The Everglades. Yeah. Oh, looks like Matthew Adelstein is here joining us now. Let's get him on the video call. Matthew Adelstein is a young post-high schooler. He just graduated. He was in a debate recently and had nothing to do with comments that he made on Twitter, but it was his Twitter comments that lost him the debate. Joining us right now is the young Matthew Adelstein. Good morning, Matthew. Thank you for joining us on the Wake Up America show.
Thanks for having me.
So if you wouldn't mind, for our listeners who don't know the backstory here, tell us a little bit about yourself and this debate and the situation of how things unfolded.
Okay, so my name is Matthew Adelstein. I did high school debate when I was in high school. I'm currently a second year studying philosophy at the University of Michigan. I also have a blog at benthams.substack.com. People should read. And so I was at a round of high school debates, which was at the most competitive national tournament. the topic was about having something to do with water policy. And so, we read some case advocating for water policy. And the other team, rather than, arguing, as one might expect, that the water policy that we were proposing was a bad idea or something like that, they argued instead that because I've said offensive things on Twitter, this means that I'm such a horrible person, that I should just lose the debate round automatically. And the allegedly offensive things that I've said on Twitter were just, fairly milquetoast defenses of free speech, that even people who say really horrible things should be allowed to say those things. But yeah.
Well, Matthew, I'm glad that you're joining us here on the show this morning. We're grateful to have you here to discuss this topic because free speech is what we're all about here on the Wake Up America show. We defend all 10 of the Bill of Rights here on the Wake Up America show. And certainly the First Amendment is the very First Amendment for a reason, because the founders knew how important it was for us to be able to protect freedom of speech. I think George Washington famously said that if free speech be taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led to the slaughter. But your comment on Twitter specifically, I think, is one that as racially charged an environment as the political debate is today, it can reach its tendrils down. When I say it, I'm talking specifically about woke politics, reaches its tendrils down even into high school debates to infect a high school debate, which is all about free speech, in order to impact the outcome in favor of woke policies. So, what was it specifically that your tweet said that became the centerpiece of this discussion?
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact phrasing. The question, so Jeff Miller asked, what is something that you think is morally repugnant, but that you think should be legal to say and accepted by society? So I said, saying slurs. Now, when I posted it, I didn't see the accepted by society part. I wasn't looking that carefully. And I don't really know if I'd say it should be accepted by society. I mean, I think that the phrase accepted by society is a relatively ambiguous term. I certainly don't think that people who go around saying slurs are worthy of no condemnation. But I think, I certainly don't, if by accepted by society you mean, well, society shouldn't ban them or something or kick them out, and then I think it should be accepted by society in the very minimal sense. But I certainly think it should be legal. And so, yeah, that's what I said.
So, if you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Matthew Adelstein. He has blown up recently in the news, centered around a high school debate that he was engaged in related to water policy, which somehow turned around to the discussion about a tweet that he made regarding what should be legal in society and potentially accepted by society, is whether or not someone can say slurs. And we're talking about, bigoted, homophobic, racist slurs, whether or not it should be legal to be racist. And certainly we have plenty of laws like hate crime laws and things like that, Matthew, that sort of make it illegal. But what we're talking about here is whether or not someone should be allowed to say something racist in public. Do you think that people think it should be illegal to even say those kinds of things?
Certainly some people do. I think that most people are generally relatively in favor of free speech and think that, I would guess that if you ask what percentage of people support banning hate speech, it would be less than a third of the country. But I don't have any rigorous polling on that.
But in regards to, I would probably disagree with you, Matthew, and I've been around the block a few times. I'll bet if you polled most people here in the United States, if they asked if it should be illegal to be racist, most people would probably say, yes, it should be illegal to be racist, which is, I don't condone racism, but I don't think it should be legal. I think when you try and outlaw it, you probably make it more attractive to most people. It's kind of like, when you drive something underground, you create a sort of a black market for it. And there certainly is a black market for speech because of the way social media has handled free speech. But that's another discussion. Maybe we can get into that a little bit later. Now, Matthew, talk to us about that pivotal moment that your debate partner brought up what it was that you said on Twitter. How did the audience react? And did the moderators or the judges say anything specifically about that?
Well, so there wasn't an audience, as is true of most rounds of high school debate. But the judge was pretty stone-faced. It's unfortunate, but stuff like this is relatively common in rounds of high school debate and certainly in rounds of college debate. I remember a story from a round of college debate among two of the best teams in college debate, two of the top teams. That I mean, it's really like, you know, almost like something out of a Monty Python sketch. So there was one team that had at one point, you know, described the other team's arguments as incoherent or something. And this team just went out of their way and sent this extremely like just over the top Facebook apology where they were like, "Oh, we're so sorry for calling your arguments incoherent." And then the other team argued that like the other team was black, and the other team that was black argued that this was like trauma dumping and was racist, and they won the round based on. So you're not even allowed to apologize apparently, and this occurred in a debate between two of the top teams. I think that like yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of interesting. Like academia is pretty far left, and then debate is just way further left than most of academia. And it's sort of interesting as a sociological matter to think about why that's the case, but it certainly is the case. And so as a result, you just get really insane arguments being deployed and being kind of widely accepted.
Now Matthew, help me understand your mindset and kind of where you come from on the philosophical spectrum. I see on your Twitter account, you describe yourself as an atheist, a vegan. Things like that would lead me to believe perhaps that you're a little bit maybe further left of center than I am. I'm agnostic personally, but I tend to hang out with Republicans and libertarians. So you're describing academia in such a way. I mean, would you consider yourself a liberal or left of center? Because
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly consider myself left of center, but I think that I think I'm left of center, and I'm also more libertarian relative to center. So, I think free markets are quite efficient engines at generating unprecedented levels of prosperity. I was a Gary Johnson guy in 2016 when I was, like 13. But
Well, Matthew, we're glad to hear that. Despite the fact I did run against Gary in that primary
no,
that
I know.
year.
Yeah, no, I watched the debates many years ago.
Oh, okay. That's funny. That's very funny, Matthew. Well, we're glad to have you here all these years later. But talk to me about that, because if you consider yourself to be, a little bit left of center, but libertarianish, maybe, a left libertarian, if you will, and you hold these views of free speech and free markets, that really is going to get you ejected from polite society amongst the left. I mean, amongst the woke and what is really becoming the mainstream left these days. I mean, you really are an outlier and a minority. I mean, do you recognize that?
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, it's certainly true in debate that, like, I think that these dynamics are sort of, quite prevalent in debate. But I think that if you just talk to most people that are left of center, most of them are at least nominally in favor of free speech. I mean, I've nearly all of my friends and nearly all the people who I know are left of center. I'm in California. And it turns out that I think most of them have fairly reasonable views. I mean, Joe Biden, I think, was a pretty moderate candidate. Certainly, if you compare him, like, I think it says something about the state of the Democratic Party that the one person who won was not Bernie Sanders. It was instead Joe Biden. And what it says is that just a lot of the country, and certainly most people on the left, are, kind of moderate, old school liberals. Or most people on the left are, not most of them.
Matthew, what do you really think the lesson is here from your experience?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think there are a few lessons that a person can draw. I think that one of them is just the importance of free speech. That when you have these dynamics of groupthink, where kind of everybody thinks the same things and various ideas that are mainstream, that half the country believes are just unutterable in rounds of high school debate, it makes it so that people just aren't able to defend their views and don't have very sophisticated views. I mean, I remember, there's a guy named Michael Moreno. He's a libertarian. You'd like him. Who he at one point was. He also did debate, and he read some evidence from Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, and the judge stopped the round early and gave him a loss and 0 speaker points. Generally, people, so speaker points are rated from 0 to 30. People basically never get below 25, and so 0 speaker points is like unheard of. And the judge did this because the judge said that, Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson are white supremacists and so on and so forth. And so I think, and so I was at one point, a year or so back, I was listening to Michael argue with some people in debate, and they were just like completely unprepared for the arguments that he was making, because it turns out that when things are an echo chamber, when one's ideas go entirely unchallenged, people are not able to understand the best arguments coming out of the other side. I really think that that just a huge portion of people in the debate space just have no idea how they would challenge conservative arguments. I mean, you have lots of people who call themselves socialists and communists who literally don't know what the economic calculation problem is, and it's so. I think that's one lesson. Certainly, other lessons that can be taken away from it.
That is the funny thing about socialists, and you'll see that more and more, Matthew, as you get older, how very few people who espouse to be a part of an ideology really know the first thing about it. And I'll tell you that. As a libertarian, I find that to be true, even amongst our people, Matthew. Very few libertarians even really know what it means to be a libertarian, which means that probably you and I are the only true libertarians. Matthew Adelstein, hey, very slowly and spell it out for us. Would you mind giving us that Substack again so that people can follow you? I know some people were asking for it, but I think you said it a little too fast.
Oh, yeah. So it's benthams.substack.com. You can also type it if you just type into Google Bentham's Bulldog. It's the first thing that comes up.
Bentham's Bulldog. Is that like a Jeremy Bentham reference there?
Yeah. I'm a big utilitarian.
The creator of the Panopticon. All right. Well, Matthew Adelstein, we are so grateful that you were so generous with your time today. Thanks for getting up early, joining us on the show. And hey, thanks for standing up for free speech. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We appreciate that. What did you think of Matthew Adelstein? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. You know how hard I work to bring you these kind of interviews? How much I work to try and get these people on the show? They don't just fall out of the sky. 99.5% of these people don't approach me and say, Austin, can I be on the Wake Up America show? Well, they should, because it's an awesome show, wouldn't you say? I think so. Wait a minute. What's that? What's that noise? You can't do that. No. Pause. Do not play that music. Play something else, because it's not the end of the show yet. We still got a little bit of time, but I do want to remind you, tell you the news. Everything in the 4th of July collection is 20% off right now. So if you're a monthly subscriber to the Wake Up America show, I know what you're saying. Austin, I get 20% off on everything every day. Okay, great. You are the coolest. Bow down. Here come the hiccups. But if you're not a monthly subscriber, you should be. But everything in the 4th of July shop is 20% off right now. 20% automatic discount on all of the items on the AP for Liberty shop. Now, I know probably some of you are like, meh, but what if I'm a subscriber? Do I get 40% off? No, sorry. You try and make me poor. You can't make me poor. It's just 20% off on the 4th of July. 20% discount total. But you do get 20% off everything in the shop. So if you want to buy some 4th of July stuff, you get 20% off those. And then if you buy something else that's not in the 4th of July shop, you get 20% off. It's 20% off. It's free real estate. Check out ap4libertyshop.com. Have you seen all the awesome stuff that we've got at the AP for Liberty shop? Check this out. Look at this. Hey girl, on a scale of 1 to 1776, how free are you tonight? Now you can get that awesome, sexy George Washington shirt for 20% off by visiting ap4libertyshop.com. Or how about this? 407 beers ago. Now there's just, barely enough time to get you your shirts and tees in time for the 4th of July. I can't guarantee it, but if you do want to try, today's the day. And it's an awesome shirt you can wear year-round anyway for the rest of the summer. Abraham Lincoln, 407 beers ago. Somebody donated $5. Douglas H. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you very much. Donald Trump brush. Who is going to clean your toilets? Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump will clean Donald Trump's toilets. You can get an awesome Donald Trump toilet brush over at ap4libertyshop.com. You can see all the wild items that we have here. A lot of these things are designed by me, not the Donald Trump toilet brush, but the t-shirts and designs come from my wife and myself. Man, I missed the 1970s. I don't know why I decided to make this shirt. I just thought it was weird and funny, but it's got a sad Pepe who looks like he's got a 1970s mustache and hair. Man, I miss the 70s. So if we have any boomers watching us, there we go. How about this? Get this look, the Don't Tread on Me design, classic look that you can get at apforlibertyshop.com. The number one selling t-shirt this year, however, has been my Caucasians team jersey. Don't freak out. Just a local indigenous man who enjoys his favorite baseball team, or the Caucasians. Can you imagine the responses that you might get wearing this shirt, walking around with the shirt, just the team jersey of Caucasians with the awesome Chad Wojak on there? Check it out. Or our second most popular tee this year, Ooh Government, or Ooh Taxes. Check it out. If you wore a shirt like this, you can definitely pick up a girl like that. Well, I mean, imagine what people's responses will be when they see your shirt and it says Ooh Government. Pretty much everybody's going to be able to agree with you on that one. You can also get a signed copy of my lovely wife's book, My Wife and Myself. I wrote it with her. Calvin, the Coolest President. And it's about Calvin Coolidge. It's a great way to introduce your kids to the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. You can get a signed copy over at apforlibertyshop.com. Check out our book that is a wonderful telling of the life and times of our best, most libertarian president, Calvin Coolidge. Calvin, the Coolest President. Get it at apforlibertyshop.com, as well as, if you're a big fan of the show, great Wake Up America show gear, or our popular Call the Cops, I don't give a you-know-what hat over it. I mean, there we go. Okay. So now it is time to kind of end the show. Oh, sad. Sad. I appreciate very much all of the viewers in the last couple of days. It's really been exciting to see how many people have been tuning into the show. The Wake Up America show is a project that is almost 1 year in the making, trying to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. I am a former presidential candidate and senatorial candidate who has been fighting for a very long time for these ideas, and I believe in them very deeply, and I care very deeply about spreading them to you and to all of your friends and next generation. Why don't you introduce us to a friend? If you have a friend that you know that likes podcasts, maybe they get up early in the morning, they want something that can catch them up on the news and what's going on. Here's some great interviews. I think the Wake Up America shows is good enough to introduce to your friends, to your family, to your neighbors. Why don't you do that? We'd appreciate that very much. Thank you to Dash for the super chats. Dude, that is super generous and grateful. I'm super grateful. Thank you very much. People like you help to keep the show alive, surviving, and thriving so that we can continue to bring you the absolute best content. Interviews like Matthew Adelstein and Larry Sharp. And didn't you enjoy that discussion with Camelia Peterson? I think I'm going to cut that and post that a little bit later. And then, of course, we had our guest at 7:30 a.m. who was it? It was Tony Lavasco on the show. You just don't get that kind of great guests and content anywhere else but the Wake Up America show. So please support us by becoming a monthly subscriber, buying from our shop, or supporting us either by liking or subscribing to the show in some way. You can do it for free. The Wake Up America show brought to you by our friends at Lear Capital, as well as shellshockcbd.com and ap4libertyshop.com. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Clear? All right, everybody, we're clear. All right, it's time to party. So I'm going to get a drink. Oh, we're still live? We're still live? Oh, okay. Gotta go. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens. An intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.